So today's final movie was 1995's Jeffrey, which is a romantic comedy based on a play by Paul Rudnick and directed by Christopher Ashley. Christopher Ashley mostly directed Broadway, and he's done a lot of Broadway shows. And Paul Rudnick, the play Jeffrey was a Broadway show before it was this film. It's a romantic comedy starring Steven Weber as the titular Jeffrey. He is a single gay man in Manhattan in the mid-90s. He is a waiter and wannabe actor, and he is afraid to have sex because this is the height of the AIDS epidemic. He does not like safe sex, and he just has decided to call it all off and stop sleeping with anybody and just deal with it that way. However, he then meets the man of his dreams, played by Michael T. Weiss. Michael T. Weiss, you will remember, was the Pretender. As soon as he popped up, I was like, it's the Pretender! This movie came out about a year before the Pretender. So, and if you don't know the Pretender, look that movie up, or TV show up. I watched that whole series with my parents. It was one of our favorites. I also was a big fan of Wings, so anytime I see Steven Weber, I basically think of Wings and the remake of The Shining, because I thought he was pretty good in the remake of The Shining. Anyways, so Jeffrey kind of tries to figure out, should he try to date this guy? Should he not? And then complicating things is that Michael T. Weiss's character, Steve, is HIV positive, and so that just freaks Jeffrey out, and he just can't handle it anymore, even though he pretends that that's not what it is. And the rest of the film is sort of him dealing with his own sort of feelings about AIDS and about being part of the community, and whether he should really be part of it or go and hide, etc., etc. The film is sort of made like kind of like Annie Hall, in that there's bits and pieces of fantasy and breaking of the fourth wall and all kinds of things in it. And there's a lot of people who are in it for as much as, a third of the film, like Patrick Stewart, who really steals every scene he's in, or people who are in it as much as 10 seconds, like Victor Garber. When Victor Garber showed up, I squealed. I love him so much. But there's also great scenes for people like Cameron Manheim for a hot second, Sigourney Weaver, in a very wonderful satirical ribbing of 90s self-help guru culture. Kathy and Jimmy, Olympia Dukakis, Nathan Lane. A lot of things are skewered in this movie. It's a mixture of romantic comedy and satire. It also feels painfully mid-90s, so some of the phraseologies are a little not okay anymore, and I think it's very much of the sort of upper middle class white milieu of Manhattan. So it's not exactly the most broad spectrum look at the queer experience. But for what it is, I think it's quite good, and it is a great romantic comedy. You really do want these guys to get together. You really feel the chemistry, and you really kind of want to punch the guy in the face and be like, stop being afraid of everything, because he's really not he's not really afraid of AIDS. He's more afraid of commitment and falling in love and all of the emotional entanglements that come with that. And so he's sort of using the AIDS crisis as an excuse for being afraid of commitment. What else was I going to say about this movie? It's on Filmstruck for until December 1st, I think. So you've got a week and a half or so to watch it. Is that how many days we have left? I don't know. However many days are left in November, you have to watch it. It's a week. I don't even know anymore. It's a week. Sorry. Math is not my strong point. Honestly, Patrick Stewart's the best thing in this movie. He steals every scene. I wish he made more comedies. Every time Patrick Stewart does a comedy, I'm like, we're blessed. We're just blessed. So this was Jeffrey from 1995. Like I said, you can watch it on Filmstruck. I'm not sure if it's available on DVD, but it's definitely worth checking out. It is of its time, but it's also quite good. That being said, 1995, Christopher Ashley's Jeffrey.